Welcome to the DNA Advantage podcast, where you can learn facts about your DNA that can help you live a healthier, longer life, doing all the activities you dream of doing. If you want to gain more control over your health and the factors that influence it, you're in the right place. Hello there, I'm Lisa Witherow, and I'm here to talk to you today about sleep, which I consider to be one of the overlooked contributors to health and performance that we really need to appreciate. Sleep is definitely a requirement for our bodies. It's a time when our cortisol resets, which affects our stress response and our metabolism and our mood. We assimilate our memories and are able to convert them from short-term to long-term memories, regain our cognitive stamina, and really gain an ability to focus and reset our brain. Our immune system has concentrated time to detect and neutralize threats like bad bacteria or viruses or even disease. We can also use the downtime to heal, grow, and develop more muscle and repair the muscles that have been damaged. So sleep isn't what we often think of as downtime where our bodies do nothing. Our bodies are actually very busy and doing very productive things. And we need to give ourselves enough time at the right times in order to benefit from all of those functions. Our cortisol resets at very specific times. And if we miss those times, research has shown that we don't have the same benefit if we sleep at different times. So if we don't sleep between the hours of 10 p.m. and 1 a.m., and we miss all of those hours, the full span, our ability to reset our cortisol levels is reduced significantly, because those are the times right around midnight that our cortisol resets. We need to recognize if that is a factor, and if it's possible for us to get sleep during those hours, it's advisable. It's really important for us to listen to our bodies and pay attention to how we are affected by our lifestyles. And even if we have a job that's a swing shift job or we work the night shift, we need to appreciate how that's affecting our health, and if it's something that we can continue long term, or if it's compromising our health to such a degree that we need to change jobs. I'm sure we can all think of a time when we push ourselves too far and we don't prioritize sleep, and we either get sick or exhausted, and we're forced at that point to rest. It's happened to me several times in my life, but most often when I was in college. I used to get an upper respiratory infection every year after finals, and I remember that because it was always between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I was forced to take a week just to sleep and recover. It was so annoying, and of course back then I didn't make the connection other than it was stressful and I was very busy. But when I finally figured out that I couldn't study nights and work all day without resulting in a week of exhaustion and misery, I was much better off, because then I allotted enough time for my sleep and it stopped happening. I'm really glad that I learned that lesson pretty early on, because I have big health concerns that run in my family, and I need to keep up my resistance to things like cancer, heart disease, and of course, colds and flu. That's why I'll be focusing on sleep today. Hopefully, it will inspire you to make sure to prioritize sleep for your health. There are a lot of things that can get in the way. We can consider it to be a luxury. Sleep is for the weak, or it's a waste of time. I've heard people say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Of course, that is a joke, but the sad reality is that we'll probably die much sooner if we don't give ourselves the benefit of sleep. Many people consider themselves too busy, they work too much, or they need to focus more on work. They have nightlife that they have to maintain and they don't want to sacrifice that. or screen time and studying can get in the way. When we have disruptions in sleep, we can start believing that going to bed earlier isn't even going to benefit us because we can't sleep anyway. But the reality is we need to figure out why we're not sleeping well and make adjustments so that we can facilitate better sleep. Whether we're having trouble with sleep or not, we need to put in some effort. And that's what we're going to do today is I'll go through a list of things that you can do to really maximize the potential of your sleep so that you can gain even more benefits to the sleep that you're already having. The first thing that we want to do is listen to your body. You can begin to understand by listening and paying attention to what's going on from day to day or night to night in this case, what may be interfering or taking you away from the sleep that you need, or when do you have really good sleep and what do you feel is contributing to that? The second thing is you can improve your sleep environment to maximize the hours that you're sleeping and the consistency of your sleep. You want to minimize light, adjust the temperature, and the sounds that are around you for deeper sleep. Anything that can interfere with that consistent rest is really important to consider. The next thing you can do is adopt supportive habits for sleep, including a schedule for caffeine, making sure that you're minimizing the amount of caffeine that you're having, and make sure you don't drink caffeine after 2 p.m. For some people, it's even earlier, but you can gauge based on your own body and how you respond to caffeine, whether or not caffeine is even reasonable for you to have. Limit your exposure to blue light, and if you can't limit the blue light exposure, make sure that you have blue blocking glasses that can help you. And then pay attention to the timing of your meals and exercise and see how that may be influencing your sleep. And electromagnetic is an influence that is invisible to us, but it is very powerful. So make sure that you're paying attention to your exposure to electromagnetic, all of your electronic devices, and even the Wi-Fi in your home. You can put that on a timer to make sure it turns off while you're sleeping and ensure that it's not interfering with your sleep. Another step you can take is to be aware of the stressors and ways that you can manage stress when it gets elevated. We can't always prevent stress, but what we can do is recognize how our bodies respond positively to certain stress relief and certain lifestyle habits that can minimize the impact of stress. Another thing we want to do is be open to new ways to support and improve sleep. There are several options that are extremely supportive and completely natural. You can use herbs and essential oils. There are flower essences that can be really helpful. Homeopathics and gentle relaxation techniques can also be really helpful. And then, of course, you can learn from your DNA what your sleep needs are and if there are genes that should be supported to optimize your sleep. Sleep isn't just a luxury or for the weak. It actually strengthens us and is necessary for optimal health and performance. When we think about the benefits of sleep, we also need to recognize that it is extremely helpful for our cognitive function and focus. We are able to have better problem-solving abilities and decision-making capabilities when we've had proper sleep. We are able to experience higher levels of energy, better immune function, and of course, the healing and recovery when we've had proper sleep. Our metabolism is improved when we sleep well, and we're able to recover from emotional strain and mental fatigue so that we're more resilient and have a better mood and mental clarity when we've had proper sleep. Essentially, sleep will help us with our longevity and disease prevention as well, which is absolutely critical because we may think of disease as something that sneaks up on us, but the reality is that we can get worn down and it can become something that we are allowing ourselves to be more vulnerable to when we aren't taking better care of ourselves, and sleep is a major factor. Sleep is a really critical aspect of our health, and we need to understand our sleep needs, the genetic factors that influence our sleep, and the duration and quality of our sleep. We need to appreciate what environment changes are going to really make a difference for us, and the daily habits that actually lead us to improved sleep. We're able to achieve a much better quality of sleep when our body has all that it needs and there aren't as many distractions. We also need to recognize how stress is involved and even our emotional status, and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to improve the condition of our bodies, our level of stress, and our emotional status so that we can rest and unwind and gain all the benefits of sleep. When we think about healing from an injury or after an illness, it's really important to recognize the value of sleep. When we are given certain medications, or if we've been drinking alcohol, it will compromise our quality of sleep. And although that's not the intention, unfortunately, it can detract from our depth of sleep, our REM sleep, and it can compromise the value of our sleep. It's important to recognize when that happens, and when we have a critical time that we need to be repairing and recovering, and make sure that we compensate for anything that might be interfering. Making sure that we have proper nutrition, making sure we aren't presenting additional obstacles in front of ourselves like alcohol, staying up late, or something that is possibly making us feel more relaxed, but not really giving us the quality of sleep that we need, and maybe even detracting from our sleep. It's truly worthwhile to evaluate your sleep and make the adjustments that you know will make a difference. When you start documenting and paying attention to what's helping and what isn't, or what might be distracting you from good sleep, you can really make a difference in a very short amount of time. If you'd like to learn more about sleep and other DNA topics, you can subscribe to my podcast, or you can join my membership to gain access to me and to my DNA health resources. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for joining me to learn about DNA health. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you'd like to join my free community where we delve into more details about DNA, just click Community below. We also need to recognize how stress is involved and even our emotional status, and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to improve the condition of our bodies, our level of stress, and our emotional status so that we can rest and unwind and gain all the benefits of sleep. When we think about healing from an injury or after an illness, it's really important to recognize the value of sleep. When we are given certain medications, or if we've been drinking alcohol, it will compromise our quality of sleep. And although that's not the intention, when we get pain medications and things that allow us to sleep without the interruption of pain, unfortunately, it can detract from our depth of sleep, our REM sleep, and it can compromise the value of our sleep. It's important to recognize when that happens, and when we have a critical time that we need to be repairing and recovering, and make sure that we compensate for anything that might be interfering. So making sure that we have proper nutrition, making sure we aren't presenting additional obstacles in front of ourselves, like alcohol, staying up late, or something that is possibly making us feel more relaxed, but not really giving us the quality of sleep that we need, and maybe even detracting from our sleep. More relaxed, but not really giving us the quality of sleep that we need, and maybe even detracting from our sleep. Detracting from our sleep. Sleep. Or something that is possibly making us feel more relaxed, but not really giving us the quality of sleep that we need. And possibly even, and maybe even detracting from our sleep.